Alright, good morning everybody. This is Steve. Welcome to the Little Wood Shop and our Sunday evening blog. CNC kitchen table wildlife scene tutorial. Alright, well today what we have for you is we are going to walk you through step by step how to go and how to build that beautiful scene right there. Okay? Now I told you, just to back up a little bit, I told you that I used to have this monstrous kitchen table. Okay, it was about 7 feet by almost 4 wide. You know, it could seat 8 people easily, and it was just way too big for my kitchen and my home and, you know, our purposes. So we're going to downsize and we're going to build, we're going to downsize, excuse me, and we're going to rebuild this kitchen table. But this is the graphic design that we've programmed and that I am looking to use. Now, to give you a better idea of what it is we're looking to build, we're going to bring in a photo right now, and I'm using this strictly for reference, okay? This photo does not belong to me. It's not my property. I am using it merely for reference. No more, no less. Now, my old kitchen table used to have this exact same carriage on the bottom of it, okay? This is what we will be building this coming week up in the shop. We're going to be putting this carriage together, making our spindles, getting everything measured up, and we will be walking you through step by step. But this is basically going to be the design style that we are going to build today, okay? Alrighty. Well, without further ado, let's get started. Alright. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our copy of VCarve Pro, a nice fresh one. We're gonna come up here to create a new file. Now I know that my machine maxes out at 50.249. It's gonna be tight. We're gonna be utilizing every inch of my table, and I know that I can max out at 39.230. However, my spoiler board on my x-axis is only 37 inches wide. That means I am going to have a ½ inch of overhang. I'm sorry. I'm going to have a ½ inch of overhang off my spoiler board table itself on each side of the gantry. So we're going to end up having to fasten this from the underside of the table so that nothing can move, okay? Alright, my material thickness, we're going to be using 1.5 inch kiln dried KD stock, 2x10s by 8s. My Z-axis, for my router, I always touch top off the surface of the top of the material and not the table. My datum position, I've told you in the past, I always start from the center. That's just how I roll. My units of measurements here in the United States for all of us is inches. We click OK. Alright, I'm going to open up the toolpath function. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to create a vector. I want to come into draw an ellipse, and I'm just going to get one on the table. Alright? Alright, we're going to close him out. We're going to make sure that we are in Edit Object Selection mode. I'm going to highlight him, and we're going to see all the nodes light up. We're going to come over to Transform Object. We're going to align Selected Object, and we're going to align him in the middle. Now, we can close out this box. We're going to come up to Transform Objects, and we're going to set Selected Object Size. I am going to unlink the X and Y. I told you that I do this because what I'm looking to do is set the exact size that I want for this project. Okay, we're going to go 48.0, and then on my height, I'm going to go 36.0. I am going to click Apply. I have now got the outside dimension. Now I told you this is going to take up the entire top of the machine under the gantry, so we're going to have to screw from underside the table. When we get to that point though, up in the shop, we'll show you exactly what we're doing. Alright, I'm going to highlight this again. Now the one thing I want to do is I want to right click right now, and I want to copy this. I want to copy this circle. I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to paste. You're going to see the line darken up. Alright, we're going to come back into Transform Objects. Set Selected Object Size. Now I want a 2-inch border on the inside of this. So to have 2 inches all the way around, I've got to actually take 4 off. So we're going to go 44.0. 4 inches less 36 will be 32.0. And we're going to click apply. Pow, we've got our inner border now. Alright, this is where we are going to contain all of our engravings. Now, for some of you who have just come on in the last few days or maybe the last couple weeks who are sitting down and catching this, the one thing you're going to realize is that we have a completely open source vector graphic, fully programmed CAD library at your disposal. It's for all of you to use, to share, and to enjoy. Every image that is in there is out of openclipart.org. Free to use, free to share, and free to even use for commercial purposes. So all the imagery in there, you have as much rights to use as I do. We've constructed a library from all the imagery of openclipart.org to create the library where all this imagery is coming from, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this exact imagery that we have to share with you. You can go in to our personal library that we share with all of you. You can download all of the exact same images that we're going to be using right here today, right now, okay? Now, to give you an idea of the size of the library, I will pull the folder over right now that has all the file sets in it that is actually in the downloadable library itself. Okay, what we see is we see a bunch of different animals. Let me enlarge these so we can see them a little better. Okay, what you end up getting in this library, for instance with Mr. Raccoon, we give you the rendered JPEG image of what it looks like coming out of the VCarve Pro software. We give you the original PNG image file, untouched, with the actual description, so that if you were to go to openclipart.org, you can go in, you can look up this number to this animal and find the artist that rendered it. I do not change the names on the files so as the artist who originally designed them can take full credit. Alright, we give you an EPS file, we give you the DXF file, and of course you get the VCarve Pro CRV file, okay? So we're giving you a wide selection to choose from. Now, for this, I'm going to end up just dragging in already pre-configured CRV files from the library, and you can do the exact same thing, okay? First thing I'm going to pull in is I'm going to pull in the little cabin along the stream. Alright, first thing I want to do is I want to expand this image, okay? I'm going to come down to Transform Objects, and for those of you right now who are maybe wondering how we brought this image in, you can bring and you can import a vectorized image by import vectors from a file. Wherever it is in your computer, whether it's my documents, my pictures, whatever folder, this is where you would go, and you would come in here and you would find the table, or the image for the table, I'm sorry, that you want to import. Or what's easier is to do what I just did and drag a CRV file in the event you are running VCarve Pro. If not, utilize one of the other vector files that we have, like EPS or PDF, okay? Now, I am going to want to take, under Transform Objects, and I am going to want to enlarge him. I want to scale this cabin up a little bit. So let's take, and let's pull him up to about 17.5 inches. Now, make sure that our link X and Y is checked. I told you when we were doing the border and the outer rim for the bevels to take that off. Well, we want to make sure that we do have our X and Y checked because I want this thing to scale proportionately in CAD. We click Apply. I'm going to leave this for just a second. I'm going to scale out simply while in selection mode. You can turn your mouse wheel up or down. Alright, next thing I want to do is I want to import another graphic. We're going to import the ledge over to the left hand side with the tree and with the trees on top and what have you. Alright, we're going to take and we're going to drag in the next CRV file. Let me zoom out a little bit. This is going to be what's titled the Mantario drawing. It's going to take a second, okay? Anywhere's on the lit graphic, click again, and let's drag him down in. Now, there's a lot of information, so if you have a slower processor or not enough RAM or memory in your computer, okay, I can tell you that this will drag in sections, so you just have to give your tower a second to catch up, okay? Now, we need to expand this, but before I do this, this little outcropping on the end I don't like, okay? We're going to zoom in, and I'm going to show you right now. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's come up here to our 2D view control, and we're going to click on pan view. Alright. We can also unpin this function for a second. Alright, let's zoom in. Again, scroll up on the mouse wheel. I want to take this clutter out. I don't want it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come in, and under Edit Objects, we're going to go to Node Editing. Click on that. Come in here, and let's zoom in right now. Okay? We're going to go into Edit Objects, Node Editing, light him up. I'm going to delete the span. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to delete this span. Alright, what we see now is we can see that all of this is lit up. Hit the delete button on your keyboard. Now we're going to come over and we're going to go to Edit Objects, go to your selection mode. We want to come in, hold down your left mouse key, highlight all of this, light him up, hit your delete button. Good, now he's gone. Now we do have this crazy little cropping sticking out here. We're going to show you how to take care of that. We're going to go into Node Editing. Again, we're going to come down, we're going to light him up. Now, again, you can hold down your left mouse key, highlight these nodes, and hit the letter D on your keyboard for delete. You can now hover over each independent node and hit D for delete. I want to take the sharp points out of all of this. I don't know of any outcropping on a ledge that would quite look like this. So we hit D, we highlight our nodes, we hit D. I'm going to right click now. I want to start smoothing some of these out. I'm going to delete this point. Right click, I'm going to delete this point. I want to connect these. I'm going to connect them with, under Edit Objects, close any node with a smooth curve. We've created our smooth curve. Now I can right click and we can delete this point. I'm going to right click, I'm going to hit smooth here. Same thing again, we'll delete this. And ultimately what we're looking for is we're looking for a nice contour. Now we've taken the entire, that little outcropping is now gone. Now, what I want to do is I want to resize this one just like we did the cabin, okay? I'm going to come in over here, under Edit Objects, we're going to go down to Selection Mode, highlight him. We're going to come in and we're going to highlight, we're going to highlight this whole thing. Now, if you happen to hit one of the outer rings out here, hold down your Shift key, unclick him. We don't need to expand that inner bevel. Now we're gonna highlight him again by clicking on him. We see all the little node boxes around him. We're gonna come into Transform Object and we're gonna set Selected Object Size. Now I remember the height on this one over here, I believe we set for around 17 inches. Again, making sure your link X and Y is checked. We'll set it at 17.0. The CAD is going to automatically rescale dimensionally correctly. I'm going to click Apply. Now, Under Edit Objects, Selection Mode. Again, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to highlight all of him. Holding down my Shift key, I can take these two lines out. And I missed a couple pieces. I'm just zooming up on my my mouse wheel. I need to come in, I need to make sure I highlight all of these. Holding down my Shift key. Alright, I'm going to scroll back out. I am going to somewheres hit him again so that all my nodes light up. Now I want to slide him into place kind of here the best I can. I can see that my node is off of this axis just a little bit, so I'm going to come into Transform Objects again, and I'm going to set him on my x-axis. Great. He's now level with our cabin scene. We're going to close him out. Now, to me, this will blend, and we have a little bit of fill to put in so that there's no big gap. But we don't want to leave this open like this. This would look absolutely foolish in my opinion. So what are we going to do? How are we going to correct that? Well, we're going to show you right now. Alright, now to correct this little left-hand side, we're going to come into Edit Objects. We're going to click on Node Editing. We're going to come over here. We're going to light him up. Now, I'm going to hold down my Shift. I'm going to spin up on my mouse wheel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one node right here and I'm going to drag him over. I'm going to take this other node down here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to turn him into a smooth curve. I'm going to have to be able to adjust these nodes as I see fit. Now, I'm going to work this node and I'm going to work this node. I can work this one back a little bit. Same thing here. Basically, I want to get my toolpath right up against the side of this bevel wall. All right, I'm going to pull him up. Next thing I'm going to do, we're going to zoom in. We're going to take this node here as well. We can delete him out. Let's light up the bottom one. Same thing again. We're going to put a smooth on him. I'm going to come in. I will right click and I will delete this one node. I'm going to drag him over. Alright. Now, we're going to adjust. And this is basically all we're going to do. We're going to go back and forth here until I get the desired results that I want. Now, I don't really care if a toolpath here runs over into another one. It's not going to be the end of the world. Alright, now we're going to come down. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to grab a node. And the way you can tell a smooth to a solid curve is blue nodes are smooth, black are solid. Again, I don't need all these nodes in here. I'm going to drag him over. Oh, I want the node, excuse me. I'm going to come in here, and I don't need really all this clutter in here. So in Edit Objects, Node Editing, again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to highlight some of this stuff. And then I'm going to hit D on my keyboard. Same thing again. I can hover over, I can hit D. Now, as I'm getting closer and closer, I want to make this a smooth transition. I'm not looking to have anything real crazy here. So move him into place, adjust our nodes, and this is what a lot of it is. It's going to come down to how personally fussy you want to be with your particular piece. Now, we've got a nice smooth transition here. The rock looks a little natural. This is I'm not sure about this up here, but you know what, we'll leave it for now. And again, it's going to come down to how fussy you want to be. Now, basically what we've got is we do have the cabin in place, and we've now got this ledge outcropping. Alright, so let's come over here to the cabin again. Now, I'm interested in perhaps getting the cabin a little bit more over to the right. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into Edit Objects, Selection Mode, holding down your left mouse key. We're going to come in and we're going to highlight all this. Alright. Holding down your Shift key, we can click off our two bevel lines. I need to come in here. I need to light up some of this. Okay, we need to get all of this stuff re-highlighted again. Alright, with this all highlighted, I wasn't going to make you sit through watching me hold down a Shift key and click all that loose clutter. We're going to come back into Transform Objects, Set Selected Object Size. Now we're 17.5 inches high. I'm going to go, let's go 18. Making sure our link X and Y is clicked. Alright, that just made the cabin a little bit bigger. Let's close this out. Let's come over here, click anywheres, get our nodes lit and back up again. Let's slide them over to the left just a titch. Alright, we'll come in at this point, Transform Objects, again, Align Selected Objects. We're going to center him on the X-axis. Let's close him off. Alright, now I told you we do have a little space in here. We got a little space, so I think that we can just come in here and maybe grab a little bit of random clutter. Nothing major. Okay, we'll right click, and how I did that was in Edit Objects, Selection Mode, left click, highlight all this, right click, copy, right click, paste. Let's light him up. Alright. And let's drag him out. And we'll put him right down here. And what else can we put in here? We can grab a little bit more clutter here. Again, right click, copy, right click, paste. Alright, and we'll just bring him down to here. And same thing again. Now, because I don't want this looking all identical, we can turn and rotate some of our pieces. Grab your little nodes, and you can rotate your clutter. I mean, you want to make it look random as possible. Okay, and that's just as simple as right-click, copy, right-click, paste, light it up, and drag it out of the object. All right, so let's also take a peek at it now. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start with a couple toolpath functions, because it gets tiring to come back in here every time you turn around and to have to hold down your Shift key and light things up. So what we're going to do, I'm going to come into Edit Objects, Selection Mode. I'm going to come in and I'm going to highlight as much of the cabin as I can. Now, if I run over into here, what's going to ultimately happen is I'm going to light up some of this ledge over here. So, holding down our Shift key, let's zoom in. I need to take out some of this rock outcropping, which went successfully. I'll highlight this little piece of clutter, this little piece of clutter. Now, I can see that I have everything lit up plus the rings. I cannot have the rings. Hold down the Shift key again. While in selection mode, unclick those. Alright, we're going to come over and we're going to start cutting toolpath functions, because like I told you, I don't want to have to come in here every time I turn around and keep highlighting all this clutter and mess. So, we're going to open up an engraving toolpath. My flat depth, because I start off the top surface with my Z-axis, I'm going to set my flat cutting depth. We'll start out at around 35 thousandths. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit. I am not going to use a flat area clearance tool. I don't believe there'd be any room in here for that. And let's title this Cabin. Alright. We're going to click Calculate. 4 duplicate vectors were identified. Basically, in the right-click copy, right-click paste, I've got a couple of extra vectors in there. They're saying that if 4 are duplicated, they will be ignored so that you will not double mill those particular vectors, alright? We click OK. And we can see our yellow bar down below is thinking. And lo and behold, it just rendered our cabin. Now, let's put a little color to him. We'll put black in him. And we'll just preview all toolpaths. Great, pow. Our first piece is in, and we've got it programmed. Great. Now, we're going to come over, we're going to do the exact same thing to this little ledge outcropping with the trees and the little water effect. We're going to come into Edit Object Selection Mode. Now we can zoom in on this a little, and we'll try to get you centered as best we can. What we're going to do is I'm going to come in down here somewheres. I'm going to hold down my left mouse button, and I'm going to highlight him. I'm going to get him all lit up. Again, even though we have him lit up, we've lit up the outer borders. We've got to hold down our Shift. I want to unclick him, holding down the Shift key and unclick him. Now we see that we also, again, for some reason I can't hit this little bit of clutter over here. Let's come up and let's get this all clicked and lit up. And all right, we can see that we've got our outcropping here all done. Let's close this out. Let's open up another V carve engraving toolpath function. Again, my depth is at 35 thousandths. I'm using a 60-degree V-bit, and the one thing I will recommend is, yes, you want to edit your tools, feeds and speeds, but they're going to need to be edited, because what I use for my 3.5 horse Milwaukee, you may have to run a smaller router slower, or you may have a large spindle that you may be able to run quicker, okay? So you need to know what the feeds and speeds are for your particular piece of equipment. Well, your spindle speed would be adjusted here. Your feed rate would be adjusted here. We'll call this ledge. Huh, helps if I put a letter E in there. All right, and we're going to click Calculate. Same thing again. Excuse me. 5 duplicate vectors were identified. They will be ignored. There's no point in double milling the same toolpath. It's just a waste of time. Your CAD software in VCarve Pro acknowledges that. So there are 573 remaining vectors. We click OK. We click Calculate. The little yellow bar is going back and forth. It's thinking. Now, lo and behold, here we go. We have the outcropping done. We're going to take and we're going to program him to black. Or we can click Set All. We'll reset. And we're going to preview all toolpaths right now. And kapow! There is now our little bit of clutter here. I may add some more, but we're going to go back in and touch this up. And we're going to show you how. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to put borders. I want to get these loops in. Now, the one thing I'll do is I will go into a profile toolpath. I'm going to use a 90-degree V-bit. I like a nice 45-degree bevel on the outsides. You may want to use a decorative edge, by all means. Whatever best suits you. All right, I'm going to come in and I'm going to call this first one my outer bevel. I want to be to the outside. I'm going to use a 90-degree V-bit, and I'm going to go down 125 thousandths. I want a nice, deep bevel on the side of this. I'm going to run it into conventional. I'm going to go clockwise around. I'm going to hit calculate. There's my first one, okay? I'm going to set this for black. I want to highlight this because this would actually be one of my first toolpath functions. And you can move these up and down as to how you want your toolpaths and in which order to go first, okay? I would do my inner and outer bevel first. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to open up that same profile toolpath again. We're going to do our inner bevel. I am going to set this one for a little shallower though. We're going to go 0.075. This time I'm going to go directly on the line. I don't want it on the outside of the line because it's going to take away from that 2-inch that I want. And I personally like the I like a nice 2-inch wide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name this one inner bevel. Again, we'll run it clockwise with a conventional, and we're going to hit calculate. Again, I'll set this for black. I'm going to come down here, highlight him, and I'm going to move him up a couple. I'm going to click new. I'm going to uncheck this box. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to toolpaths now, and I'm going to recalculate all toolpaths because I've just changed the actual milling toolpath functions as far as the order in which they go. Yeah, you can go in, you can highlight all these and go in one at a time, or you can go up to toolpaths, recalculate all toolpaths, and it will do the same thing for you. All toolpaths are recalculated. We click OK. Let's uncheck our box. We can highlight him off. We're going to come over here to 3D view. We're going to reset, and I will go back and forth all the time like this, and I will look at how my layout's going, how I feel about it. Over here we can see that we have a little piece that will still need to be adjusted. We can fix that after. But now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our animal. Alright, again I will show you the image of what we're looking to create. This is our finished piece. This, like I said, I've already programmed this, but now I'm going to add a moose, and we're going to work on this water effect. Now, to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to go in and I will show you how to do bits and pieces of it. We'll pause it. It's going to entirely be up to you as to how fussy, again, you know, how much detail you want. But remember, the more detail you add, the longer this engraving is going to be. Now, regardless of the size of this thing, all right, you may not have a machine as big as mine. You may have one larger. You may have a Stinger one. You may have a tabletop. It's still possible, however, you just need to keep in mind that with all the detail in this, you may have to start pulling some out because some of the animals, some of the scenes, when you scale them down really small, now some of your toolpath functions run into others, and then the next thing you know, oh my goodness, you've got this big scribbly mess on wood because you tried to scale a high definition detailed engraving into a CAD program that is ultimately now too small. Alright, let's get him out of here. Alright, well, let's get started on our animal and our water effect. Alrighty, well, here we go again. We are going to grab Mr. Moose that we saw in the finished piece, and we're going to drag him in, and we're going to drop him. Alright, and this is our moose. Let me scroll in. Actually, we're going to highlight him, and we're going to get some nodes around him. Let's pull him up in. Now, scale-wise, he is looking just a wee bit too big. Now, this is the other thing that I'll recommend, is that play with your object sizes. You know, I don't want the moose to be as big as the cabin. I don't want him to be as big as a tree or a mountain. I want him to be symmetrically as realistic looking as possible. Alright? So what we're going to do here is we're going to come down into Edit Objects. Oh, no, I'm sorry, excuse me. We're going to come into Transform Objects. Set Selected Object Size. Remember, keep your link X and Y checked because we want to make sure that when we make one adjustment that it reciprocates to the other side and keeps our moose symmetrical. Okay, well, he's 11.5 inches high, so I think if we take him down to about 8.0 inches, our width will be 4. He is not that super high definition detail as some of the other animals are in the library collection, so shrinking him down won't render that big of an issue. Okay, I think he's still a little small there, so let me come up to 8.5. We'll apply. Okay, maybe 9.0. We'll click apply. He's 9 inches tall. Okay, I don't mind that. Well, let's zoom in now. First of all, we need to figure out exactly where we want to put him. So let's come over to Edit Object, Selection Mode. We're going to take, and I'm going to highlight him. Again, if we hit something over here, don't worry about it. Hold your Shift key down, unhighlight it. Come in anywheres on the moose where he's lit up. And now let's move him. Let's move him around and see how he fits in just as to where we want him. Now the other thing, I'm looking at this little piece of clutter over here from our cabin scene. I'm going to move him. I think he's in the way. So I'm going to highlight him up while I'm in Edit Objects, Selection Mode. I will come over here, holding down my left mouse key. We're going to highlight the object. We can zoom in. Again, I want to highlight my clutter. Anywheres on the lit up toolpaths, highlight him again. I'll zoom out. And ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to slide him over. And that's not too bad right there. Alright, again, Edit Objects, Selection Mode. We're going to come in, we're going to highlight Mr. Moose. We're going to light him up till we get all of our nodes. I'm going to drag him over. Now, we've got Mr. Moose checking out Mr. Cabin. Dimensionally, you may want to scale him a little bigger, you may want to scale him a little smaller, but he is in. This is going to, again, it's going to entirely come up to you, ladies and gentlemen, as to what you want to do with him, okay? I will look at, again, his object size. He's 9 inches high, he's 4.775, so he's basically 9 high, 4 3/4 wide. We're just going to leave him for the moment. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take out this. I'm not keen on that. I'm going to leave just some ripples around him. Now, I told you, we're going to start adjusting the water effect here. We want to come in and we want to add all this different stuff to the water. So let's come up and let's highlight this stuff here. All right. I'm going to come over here. And as we're doing our highlight here, make sure that we also click on to get our nodes. Okay, then we right click, we copy, we right click, we paste. And what we do is we can drag this entire section of copied water down here. Now, we can start dispersing this throughout. I'll do the same thing again. I'll even right click and paste because it's going to remember the last function that it had. However, each time we go to do this, we do want to make sure that the entire area that we want is highlighted before we right click and we copy, we right click and we paste. Alright. Now the other thing is, so that we don't have a piece that is completely copied and looks identical, tip this stuff upside down, shift it, put it, it's a water effect. By no means is it the is everything meant to match. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're just going to keep filling in patches like this. And I'm going to come in while in Edit Objects in Selection Mode. I will come in, okay, now I'm going to hold down my Shift key and I'm going to start lighting up a lot of big areas of this. I'm going to highlight it again so that the whole area is lit up. I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy, I'm going to right click, I'm going to paste. I'm going to pull this out. And to make this maybe fit a little bit better, I'm going to take and I'm going to spin him completely upside down. We'll move him into place. As you can see, the water's starting to take effect. Now, you can take large sections like this. You can come up, feel free to even come in. grab different stuff from different areas, okay? Right click, copy, right click, paste. All right, now, same thing again, we'll drag him out. Put him about where you want him. Your water effects are going to come down to exactly what it is you want and the way you want to put them in, but keep playing with it. This is where it's time consuming for us, okay? And I actually don't like that, so I'm going to hit the back button. But seriously, just keep coming in, and we can keep copying. All right, holding down our shift key. Now we can light up these. We can light up these. Let's get this, all of this. All right. Then we'll highlight the whole block. We're gonna then again right-click, copy, right-click, paste. Let's drag this entire block out. All right. We'll come up. Maybe we can rotate him. This is your piece. I want you folks to design and do this however you choose, however you see fit. And basically that's what we just keep working on. And again, you've got voids in here. You've got things that you can just come up and, again, right-click, copy, right-click, paste. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. I'm not going to make you sit through me doing this entire scene like this, all right? All right, so what we'll do is we'll pause the video and we'll be right. All right, we've got our water effect in. Now, I told you before, if you were to shrink this down with this much detail in it, if we really zoom in, okay, we look at all this clutter. Now, even with an engraving this big, it's going to be up to you as to what you may or may not want to keep. You may decide, okay, well, I don't need all this. So while in Edit Objects under Selection Mode, click on the things, highlight them. Hit delete on your keyboard. You may not want all this clutter. You can randomly come through here and take out what you want. Again, it is your piece. It is entirely up to you how much you want to leave, how much you want to take out. But remember, if you do shrink this item down, what I can inform you of is that all this clutter gets really close together, and one toolpath will end up running into another. Now, we've basically gone through this, and I've taken out what I want. But again, it is your job, it's your piece, it's your scene, you take out what you want. I would come up in here as well. We could go into Edit Objects. We would hit Node Editing. I told you we had this little sliver right in here. Way I would probably handle that is just keep playing around with these nodes and adjusting. Again, take out what you want. Period. Now, the one thing we're going to do when we go to physically put this in the machine, I told you I'm going to secure this from the bottom, from the underside. I'm not only going to screw my four corners at the top, but I'm going to secure this from underneath only because my cutout along these edges is getting pretty close on the foremost corners, okay? Top, bottom, left, and right. The last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go in and we're going to do the cutout for this. Let me come into Edit Objects, Selection Mode. Now, we're going to highlight this outer. I'm going to come over here to Toolpath Operations. We're going to clearly label the very last toolpath, Cutout. Now, if we remember the bevel that we first put in, I put in 125 thousandths deep. I like a 45-degree bevel around my edges. You may choose a decorative edge. However, no matter what we do, we want to keep this in mind. This is probably one of the more important things, because if we don't remember to do this, the work that went into designing that bevel on that outer line, you can actually cut the whole thing out when you get ready to part the job out of the piece of material. Okay, now we know that our cut depth will be, for our cutout, we're 1.5 inches, so we're going to go 1.55. So 1.5 inches plus 50 thousandths. I know that I've got to change my bit over because I'm going to need an end mill. Again, you need to adjust your RPM and your feed rate in accordance to your specific piece of equipment. Now, what we need to remember is that our bevel was to the outside and to the right when we first put it in, and we'll show you that in a second. We need to allow an offset because that bevel that's going to go in here is going to be on the outside of the line. So if we put whatever our depth is, we also want to have for the allowance of the offset. So if I put a bevel in at 125 thousandths deep, I want to do my offset at 125 thousandths. I also need to add some tabs. Now, we can click on our edit tabs. This is an oval, so it's going to pretty much put these where we need them. I'm going to add tabs. I think 10 will suffice for this. If not, you could go in, you could put in, say, 15. Click add tabs. All right, those are going to be entirely up to you. We'll say to heck with it. We'll leave the 15 tabs in. I'm not worried because I told you I'm going to secure this from the underside of the machine. I want to come at this point. I'm going to calculate my cutout. It will exceed the material thickness. Yes, we realize that. That's why we have that nice spoiler board on there. Our cutout is done. I'm going to close this out. I am going to come up here. I'm going to reset my preview, and I am now going to preview every toolpath that we just put in. And there we have it. Our piece is now in. We can see our line here for our cutout. Let's center this. And there is our finished job. Now, the reason I told you that we did the offset on this right here, we put in 125 thousandths offset, is because of right here, the first toolpath that we put in was in fact this outer bevel, and this outer bevel was 120 thousandths. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll make that 125 thousandths deep as well. I'll recalculate that. Okay. And what's going to happen is if we chose to not have a bevel at all, that's completely fine. We would just have the cutout. But because I have opted for a bevel, maybe you've opted for a decorative edge, you're going to need to know what the offset is, because if you don't, when you drop that end mill and you don't put an offset allowance in, what will happen is you'll cut your decorative edge, your bevel, maybe you're going to run a cove or a quarter round of some form, you will cut it completely out. Do not forget your offset if you're using a fancy edge, okay? Folks, that is about it. As always, I told you this package here is going to be fully released. We're going to drop this into the library. We are also going to include another round, a free round for a 36-inch diameter tabletop. That could be shrunk down. Say you wanted to put it on a 24-inch round, and maybe you wanted to make a pub table for that man cave. We are going to be including another top, but because this tutorial is so lengthy, I was not going to go in and walk you through step by step how to do a round. I'm just going to give it to you. Just my way again of saying thank you to all of you for your support, following us up here at the Little Wood Shop, and following me. I cannot thank all of you enough for your support. And all of you folks that are new, that are coming on, please feel free, if you don't know, take any of these images that you like, anything that your heart desires out of this library, put it into wood, put it on the open market and sell it, because I made darn well sure that the imagery that I'm sharing with you is applicable for commercial use purposes. I want to see all of you succeed in this awesome career field, okay? I love what I do up here. I live and breathe CNC, okay? It is my life, and I enjoy sharing it with each and every one of you. I hope you truly know that, okay? Well, again, to you ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for following us and supporting this humble little shop and what it is we're trying to do. I hope you had a great weekend with you and yours as well, and you're starting to enjoy some of the fall colors if you live in that region of the country. Okay, everybody, stay tuned this week. We've got a midweek shout out coming up, and we got a few other things on the in store for the week itself. Okay, everyone, take care, be safe, be happy, and we'll see you Wednesday for the midweek shout out. All right, guys, bye bye.